We talked a lot about travel to the U.S., the fact that Canadians are saying they have no interest or less interest perhaps than ever in going to the U.S. So past couple of days, we're hearing from different groups. There's a group down in Burlington, Vermont that got together, came up to Montreal about a month or so ago, basically to let Montrealers know that, yes, please come back. We miss you. This is not about us and you. We understand about the administration. You're not happy. The threats of annexation from the president, etc. Not just Vermont. It's, of course, our neighboring states as well, like northern New York State. The state of Maine is getting hit as well. Don't know if you saw the story on CTV. Canada, crossings from Canada into the state of Maine down 27% from February to May. And on top of that, a new poll shows interest from Canadians for U.S. travel this summer is, quote, collapsing, with only 10% saying they plan to travel to the U.S. this summer. That's down from 23% last year, and that number was down from the year before. So Maine business owners say that tourism incoming from Canada is down. It's also important because, let's face it, a lot of hotels, a lot of small businesses, motels, etc., count on that trade. Thought we'd try to find out a bit more. Patrick Woodcock's president and CEO of the Maine Chamber of Commerce and is on the line. Mr. Woodcock, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let me begin. I pointed out the facts and figures so they don't lie. And obviously, this is a difficult time for people in that business this time of the year. What's the general mood down there from people you talk to?
Well, it is material. The statistics you just cited, 176,000 Canadian visitors in May. That is down materially. It roughly represents a 30% reduction from May of last year. And, like a lot of tourism businesses, these months are really critical. So any reduction in our most important period is very concerning. We're taking this seriously. The governor of Maine is actually on a trade mission to New Brunswick and Nova Scotia as we speak. And I've reached out to my counterparts, the Chamber of Commerce of Quebec, New Brunswick. It is such an important relationship, and I do think it's a moment to learn how we can't take this for granted.
When you hear from people who rely on this business, what are they telling you with respect to what they're hearing about why Canadians aren't coming down there? Is there sort of a standard, a consensus?
Well, it's multiple. Every business is unique. The aspect that is difficult to witness is a lot of these businesses have a relationship that is beyond this one generation. For Old Orchard Beach and Bar Harbor, there are Canadians who've been traveling for multiple generations and have built this relationship up that really was vulnerable to the political rhetoric. It's vulnerable to what has been a strong dollar in recent years. But really, there's this moment, I think, that a lot of Canadians want to make sure that this relationship is built on mutual respect. I think we have to listen on the American side. I've spoken to business leaders on the Canadian side, and they say for a lot of Canadians that it really is pretty raw right now. And I think we have to respect that and do everything we can to ensure that that Maine's relationship with Canada perseveres through this bilaterally challenged period.
The presidency and annexation and that kind of talk aside, it's obviously expensive now to go down there as well, given the exchange rate, but that's something Canadians have sort of learned to accept depending on the year. Are there any programs in place from, businesses in Maine to try to attract Canadians, like kind of welcome back? What are they doing?
Well, from the very simple, we put up new road signs welcoming Canadians. The governor just put up. We're doing digital marketing strategies in a way that we haven't in the past to try to make sure that people understand that when they're making this decision, it's not just a decision that is a boycott of the United States, but it's impairing a business that maybe you respected. And for a lot of Canadian tourism is a relatively small portion of our overall tourism economy. About 5% of our total visitors are from Canada. But in some of those communities, it really is it's not a uniform application where some of these communities have significant 30-40% coming from Canada. So the impact is really being acute in a few communities in the state of Maine. So in some respects, we have to expand the number of tourists more efforts at expanding the number of international travelers from other regions. But moreover, I think it is a time to really do some outreach and travel to Canada and make sure that they understand that Maine, you mentioned Vermont and New York, we really have a relationship that's unique and beyond just the bilateral relationship between Canada and the United States.
You mentioned earlier on about discussions with maritime premiers, et cetera. What are those discussions centered on, focused on, and what came from them? Anything substantive?
There's always talk, the relationship is beyond tourism, really economic ties, energy challenges, energy opportunities. We hosted an event with the Prince Edward Island premier earlier this year. Really, there has been incredible collaboration, specifically on energy. The largest energy project is under construction that will tie Quebec and Maine together. Will be in service by the end of this year. Offshore wind opportunities with Nova Scotia. There really is a lot that we share economically. I would joke that actually Maine shares more in common with some of the maritime provinces than other states. We really have a shared opportunity and shared risks as a region. And ultimately, I really do think this is a relationship that needs to be repaired. Ultimately, we're stronger when and history will illustrate that. Really, it's the strength of this bilateral relationship that really was one of the strong stories of the 20th century and has to be in the 21st.
I would just ask, I mentioned Vermont, as you said, and New York off the top, because, of course, they're border states here. And I wonder, in discussions with them, they're not necessarily next door to Maine, but they're facing the same sorts of situations here. Was there at any point the thought of sort of coming out with a sort of cohesive three-state plan, if you will, for how to attract more Canadians?
We do work together with our congressional delegations. We really do work independently on tourism strategies. New England as a whole does try to brand itself uniquely with the 6 states. But to give you a sense, the Maine congressional delegation, we have been some of the strongest supporters of the Canadian relationship. I spoke with our senior senator, Senator Susan Collins. And, when this was first unraveling, we spoke, and she had spoken with the president's chief of staff, the incoming commerce secretary, and the vice president, all in the last 72 hours. It really is, I think it has had a little bit of a shockwave through our political leadership to really make sure that this relationship at that time didn't continue in free fall, but also that we not take it for granted. So I would expect you'll continue to see some Mainers and business leaders travel to Canada, and it just won't be for the beautiful skiing and visiting Montreal, but also to repair a relationship that we take seriously.
All right. I will let it go. I will ask you one last thing before I go, perhaps unfair, but I mean, you're talking to an audience today for the most part listening in Montreal. What's your message to them about attracting them or having them come back to Maine?
Well, I think the heat of Montreal is doing the service for me. Come enjoy the beautiful, cool waters of the Gulf of Maine. You really do have a relationship that's beyond the United States. Come visit Maine. Come visit your favorite business. They can need it, and we'll have your back when you need it as well. All
right. Appreciate your time, and we shall see. I guess time will tell. Thank you so much, Mr. Woodcock. Appreciate it.
No, appreciate the time. Take care.
All right. You too. Patrick Woodcock, President, CEO of the Maine Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, they're hurting. Canadians simply not going, but I don't know. Maybe living through a couple of days like this, you're thinking maybe that's not such a bad idea. A little cooler down there than it is here. We shall see, as I said.